Uppington in the Northern Cape, ideally suited for establishing solar energy plants to expand the country's renewable energy program, in line with the 2050 net zero emissions goals. But this is easier said than done. With a failing electricity network, pressure is building on government to provide a stable network, as our sense of safety and security is closely linked to our ability to keep the lights on. This could mean that the country will rely on coal-generated electricity for longer than anticipated. While many advocate for greener energy solutions, it might not happen overnight.
I think the stability and the sanity of our society relies on having electricity. And we are every day, everything in our life assume that we have electricity. And by saying, okay, we are going to solve one crisis now by creating another, might be even a bigger one, is obviously not a technical solution. So no, we definitely cannot start switching just stuff off left and right. There needs to be a transition period. However, what is good from setting out of reach demands and goals is it really pushes us to move at least as far as possible. So by putting the peg in 10 steps ahead of you, and you know you cannot get to 10 steps, but you might get to 3 or 4 steps at least. Where if we put the peg in only 3 or 4 steps in front of us, then we will only get 1 step ahead.
Renewable energy sources are a very divisive topic, but all agree that the country needs a well-diversified energy plan to reach our net zero goals, to be carbon neutral by 2050. Time is, however, running out.
Well, if the intention to be net zero on the electricity generation side by 2050, then I think the answer is quite clearly that there's no way that we'll be able to reach that. In order to reach that, we will need significant free money. Somebody will have to give us the money to make significant investments, not only in our national grid, but also in electricity generators to reach such a goal, and storage systems in the next 25 years. It's impossible. The resources are not available. The financing is not available. It can just not happen.
The South African government has also made provision for 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy as part of the Integrated Resources Plan. Building a nuclear plant, however, takes time.
When you build a nuclear power plant, the shortest possible time you can start to operate it based on international projects. The record one was actually 43 months in a plant called Kashiwazaki Kariwa. It's called, people abbreviated KK6. It's unit 6 of the KK plant in Japan. But that was never replicated. So we can safely say minimum you need 60 months to finish the construction. By that time, if you are serious, you will have built up the expertise, so that by year 6-7, when you put it in commissioning, you have a critical mass of skills to pick up.
The building of renewable energy sources like solar plants are cheaper than building new coal-fired power stations. It can also be fully operational in a shorter space of time, which makes it an ideal solution to replace coal-fired power stations. The government's energy roadmap, the Integrated Resources Plan, is however already outdated because of the delay in releasing it. If we continue to use coal-fired power stations, the most vulnerable in our society, like the elderly and the poor, will likely bear the brunt of the consequences. South Africa therefore urgently needs a climate health warning system.
We need to systematically adapt to more extreme temperature events, hot extremes, in the Southern African region. So that includes long-term adaptation. Of course, we shouldn't accept that our people will remain this vulnerable forever. So part of this adaptation is proper housing, naturally ventilated buildings that don't become so hot in summer, having easy access to cool water for all our people, Those are key measures that will reduce our vulnerability in the long run.
In the meantime, internal power struggles within the ANC are also creating an obstacle to reach the net zero emissions goals. If this is not resolved, experts have no hope that we will be able to avoid serious climate change events decimating the most vulnerable. This package was created with the support and funding from Internews Earth Journalism Network. Lizette Labuschagne, SABC News, Uppington.